The Department of Justice has chosen 12 cities to help in the fight against crime. Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced the list of cities earlier today, and they are as follows: Birmingham, Alabama; Indianapolis, Indiana; Memphis, Tennessee; Toledo, Ohio; Baton Rouge, Louisiana. How do they say it? Baton Rouge. Buffalo, New York; Cincinnati, Ohio; Houston, Texas; Jackson, Tennessee; Kansas City, Missouri; Lansing, Michigan; and Springfield, Illinois. Joining me now to discuss, Deroy Murdock, and on the phone, Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry. Welcome to you both. Deroy, you're on set. I'll start with you. You know, the Trump administration is making violent crime a real effort here. They're really putting everything behind it. Do we need that? Is it that important?
I think it is. I mean, you literally have people dying in places across the country. What struck me about this list is cities I would expect to see on there, like Chicago, for example, where I think it may be the homicide capital of the country at this point. That happens to be a sanctuary city. And I think a lot of these cities that could be eligible to be in this program, because they're sanctuary cities and are very strident about it, I think have disqualified themselves perhaps from participating in this.
All right, Jeff, I want to ask you, what do you make of the list? Because it is interesting. They are sort of second-tier cities, not massive cities. It's not L.A., it's not New York, but I'm sure these cities are thrilled to get the money. Why do you think that they were chosen to be in this program?
Well, it's interesting. It is a very interesting list of cities. I certainly want to applaud Attorney General Sessions and President Trump for taking a proactive approach on something that I think is going to really impact this country over the next few years, and that is we're seeing the spike of violent crime. I think that the list basically are cities that are seeing the beginning of violent crime starting to emerge in there, unlike cities like Chicago, in New Orleans, and others in which the violent crime has become in an epidemic proportion. And so maybe they're trying to put in place a beta test, some sort of program under which they can see if certain things work and don't work, where they don't have to go into Chicago or other areas like New Orleans. And quite frankly, some of those cities don't welcome the Department of Justice's proactive law enforcement technique.
That's interesting. I want to ask you both. I was doing some research. I spent many years in Cincinnati. It's one of the highest violent crime rates in the country. Deroy, to start with you, what is behind this rise in violent crime? What is causing it in your view?
I think one of the things that unfortunately has contributed to this is the whole Black Lives Matter narrative. This idea that the terrible racist cops are running after black men and shooting them randomly in the streets. And so I think there's been what they call the Ferguson effect. A lot of cops think, well, I better not get involved. I might end up in a civil rights lawsuit, or who knows what might happen. And a lot of cops, unfortunately, have been sort of taking a step back. And I think as that happens, criminals have taken a step forward. And so I applaud the administration for doing this. And I would like to see that in New York City, which is kind of going the opposite direction, which is decriminalizing a lot of things and letting people kind of run loose. Walk around this building and you can see what I'm talking about.
Jeff, do you agree with a point Deroy just made? Do you believe that's true? Is it Black Lives Matter? Is it having a chilling effect on the nation's police force?
I do. I agree in part. I certainly believe that over the last 8 years, there's been an erosion to the rule of law and to picking and choosing which laws we want to enforce and not enforce. You talk about sanctuary cities. You mentioned that earlier. Same thing. We're determining which laws we want to enforce and which laws we don't want to enforce. One of the other things that you've seen some very interesting statistics. You look at cities that engage in sanctuary city policies, and you see that violent crime and crime in those cities grow exponentially or increasing in comparison to like-sized cities. In addition, you see that other cities, like the city of New Orleans, I'll give you an example, within a consent decree put on under the Obama administration. That is a very problematic consent decree that I believe is really causing that city problems in its effort to get some sort of control over the violent crime that's been sweeping that city. I mean, New Orleans is 3 times as dangerous as Chicago, and it has just surpassed Chicago a couple of weeks ago in the number of overall homicides this year.
Wow. All right. Jeff and Deroy, thank you so much. Anything to reduce that violent crime is a positive in my view.
Absolutely right.
And coming up.